It happened before Christmas. I got a call from Stockholm, and I was asked whether I'd be interested to collaborate with H&M and to create a women's collection, a men's collection, and then eventually the conversation progressed to also working with Baz Luhrmann to do a film. And,
wow.
Yes.
And we actually have met before, so we
yes.
had a bit of contact. So.
Yes. Yeah, and Sophie and I had met when I was, I think we met, I went to the Royal College of Art in London, and Sophie and I first met at the Royal College, where Anne-Sophie was there with a colleague. We were attending the design show, and then I was also a judge on the
H&M Design Award in
Award.
London a couple of years back, so Erdem has been on our radar for
quite a while.
Yeah, quite a while. And that was the time.
Yes.
The timing just felt right.
How challenging was it to design a men's collection? Obviously, you've answered this a couple of times.
Yes. Do you know, it's so interesting, the men's collection, I started with, I was designing both the women's and the men's at the same time, but the men's was such a pleasure to design. I really enjoyed it. It was it was wonderful for me to kind of question, what is it about a piece of tailoring that makes it perfect? What is it about an overcoat that makes it function beautifully? So it was quite a different process. I found myself fitting with our male fit model and taking things off of him and putting it on myself. And then I found myself putting the jacket that I just fitted for a man on a woman. So it was this wonderful exchange between the women and menswear that felt very new. It was an interesting process. And there are definite, the challenges, in a way, because it was just really one complete collection. One really influenced the other. I think what I found so interesting in the collaboration is how much the menswear affected the womenswear. And in my world, I'm very much, my language is very, very feminine. So it was fascinating to explore that and to learn quite a lot as well.
Are we gonna see more menswear from now on from you?
Who knows? Let's see how tonight goes. I hope one day.
It would be great, I think. You're great at menswear, so yeah.
Thank you.
And very appealing to women with your menswear.
Yes.
Yeah, that's the beauty of it. Yeah, I'm wearing menswear. So.
It's interesting. I found myself taking things off of the menswear and putting it into women's wear, and vice versa, taking pieces from the women's wear collection and putting it into the menswear collection. So.
How did you discover your flowers? Because a lot of it is your trademark.
Yes, the flowers. For me, I've always been fascinated by things that are feminine. I've always been fascinated by things, the language of femininity, whether it's flowers or lace. What is it that kind of implies the feminine? And for me, I've always felt like there's this tremendous power to things that are feminine. Even when I was a child, I was always looking at how women dressed, how they carried themselves, how they sat. When I drew as a child, I only ever drew women. It's been an ongoing kind of fascination, because I think there's often an association with flowers or the feminine being something that's weaker, whereas for me, I find there's an incredible strength to the feminine. I think it's a great power. So that's been a focal point of my work from the beginning.
Which is your favorite flower?
Gosh, that's a very good question. Do you know what? In a way, it's less about the specific botany of like a different type, and more about almost the fabric, how the flower looks on a fabric and the material and that reaction. But I love anemones. If you're going to buy me flowers, I'd be very happy with a bouquet of anemones.
That's good. Good to know.
What about you? If we were about to buy a bunch of flowers.
I like peonies really much. Yeah.
Cool.
What was your inspiration source for this collection? For me, it's very British. I suppose when I think about the British femininity.
Yes. For you? For me, well, you're completely right. You got you understood it. It was very much, the starting point was, I wanted to create something that felt very British and very. I was looking at people like David Hockney and Jane Birkin, something that felt very kind of English eccentric. I loved, you know, when I got the call from Stockholm, I loved the idea that I was going to have an opportunity to create a menswear collection, and I immediately thought of this music video by Bruce Weber called Being Boring. It's by the Pet Shop Boys, and it came out in the 90s, and it's about all of these kind of young people inhabiting this English country house and kind of trashing the house, but girls in beautiful bias cut gowns and wearing sneakers, and boys in tuxedos with t-shirts, and there's this wonderful kind of tension between the formal and the informal that I found very interesting, and I think, like in my own work, I was very interested in this exploration of the idea of kind of classicism. What does it mean to have a piece of clothing that has nothing to do really with a trend? What is it about clothing that can feel quite permanent? You know, the idea of when you look back to someone like, I don't know, someone like Saint Laurent or something, when you think about his work and something, you know, a trench coat from 1978, what is it about that specific trench coat that doesn't age? I find very interesting. Not to say, you know, I'm not comparing the two, but I find that idea of I don't know, good design to me has a permanence, and I find that really fascinating. And I think there's also, you know, the idea that I'm an independent brand based in London. I'm a smaller brand. I'm for sure probably one of the most lesser known designers to collaborate with H&M, and I think for me the idea of this body of work being something that's desirable just on the basis of the clothing itself was the most important thing. I think, you know, someone's going to buy a jacket from our collaboration because the jacket's beautiful and it fits perfectly. I think it's less about that customer that just wants to own something that has the logo of a designer across it. It has nothing to do with that. It's to do with, you know, something that's been created really beautifully and with thought.
Maybe would you think about historical inspiration, some kind of Victorian style, Edwardian style?
I mean, I've always been fascinated by the past, and I think the idea of this kind of tension between the past and the future is something that I find really interesting, and kind of taking something out of a context and, you know, taking something that feels slightly Dickensian or Victorian and mixing it with something kind of quite 60s feels interesting. The idea of taking things that don't belong together and mixing the two feels really kind of modern in a way.
So if it's that British, what are we doing here in LA?
That's a very good question. When we were talking about it, we were in Stockholm, and we were trying to figure out where this event was going to be. And we had just finished the filming in England with Baz, and we knew it was going to be in November. And there was something about the idea of particularly working with Baz and the idea of cinema and the idea of kind of taking something out of a context and putting it somewhere else that felt really interesting. We had, H&M hadn't done an event in LA in a while, and I had certainly never done anything in LA. We wanted together to kind of launch the collection somewhere that felt kind of new and fresh, and it felt right to do it in LA.
Position you were talking about.
Exactly. I think there's something so, I don't know, it felt really interesting to show it in Hollywood. There's an aspect of that, certainly.
Old-fashioned Hollywood glamour kind of.
Yeah, exactly. It was kind of decontextualizing something, if that makes any sense. And I like sun. It's very rainy in London.
So do we as well.
Are we going to see the Baz collaboration as well?
You will, yes.
Oh, later.
Yeah, you will at some point, I think. I don't know if that's a surprise. It's no
Well,
longer a
now you know.
surprise. You will at some point. You may or may not.
If you have to choose one must-have item, which one do you like to choose? I mean, the one you're in?
Well, I mean, we're partial to the pajamas.
Yes.
But
Always love a good
I think
pajama.
the pajamas are amazing, but I love the tweed suit for men, the grey tweed suit with the double vent. I love specifically for men, because I think you can wear it in lots of different ways. I also think the women's version is amazing, the double-breasted version, and the trousers I love. They fit so beautifully, and they're kind of quite boyish, and they fit in a very, they're very, very chic. But I think there's so many different pieces. The women's pajamas as well, with the little Victorian ruffle and the wide leg, feel very easy. It's difficult to choose.
Well, the accessories was really nice, I think we have to mention that.
Yeah, the shoes, the
and
crocodile shoes.
yeah, earrings and
Yeah. Yeah.
What's